of role-playing degenerates, being Cisco and Chris, aka Twisted Whiskey. How's everyone doing?
What's up?
I'm here.
You know, paused everything just to do this, and we're going back at it.
So, as everyone knows, usually we have a guest on. Today we don't have a guest. We kind of got schedules mixed around. Coming back from the Fan Expo, which we all went to, the Chicago Fan Expo. So we decided to get together and just do this, the three of us, the founders and or members of Role Playing Degenerate. So for everyone out there expecting a really cool guest like we usually have, it's just a group of degenerates out here. So the first
I'm
thing
only mildly offended by that.
The first thing I would like to talk about is the Fan Expo.
Hell yeah.
So, for those of you who don't know, and some of you that do know, since you saw us there, and you got to hang out with us and play some games with us and just talk to us, Role Playing Degenerates went to the Chicago Fan Expo, which was our first time, and I have to say it was a really good trip. How'd you guys feel about it?
It was really fun. And I'm glad I got to see Papa Lycan, Mr. Dandy, D&D Nerd Girl, her friend Jordan, and everyone else that we met over there. I'm definitely forgetting some names. I know you by your cosplay or by your nickname I've given you, and thanks for meeting me and having a great time with us, though.
Yeah, I thought it was cool to get to meet other content creators and then a lot of the little shops and artists. We talked to Quest Bros, did their improv D&D panel out there, who they're scheduled to be on the podcast here in next week, I think, actually. But it was cool to meet some other D&D enthusiasts and TTRPG enthusiasts, even though Fan Expo is more of a Comic-Con than a Gen Con. It was a good experience.
We got to meet Misty Mountain Gaming. That was really cool. Collabing with them. There was a medical artist, Kato. What's up? If you're watching, glad we met you. Can't wait to work with you in the future. And there's a couple other ones that we got your business cards. I can't remember them, but it was it was great. Thank you.
Imagining Games, Chew Games. They did the Rest in Pieces. We got to talk to the creator of that game and played that, and that was a lot of fun. That was a good experience too.
Yeah, we'll get to some of those highlights we just mentioned a little more in depth in a second. But overall, it was kind of bittersweet because we saw a lot of really cool stuff. Like we mentioned, Rest in Pieces, Chew Games, a lot of vendors we wouldn't talk to. But I was actually pretty surprised, and I would like to hear you guys' thoughts on this, is the lack in D&D culture at a Fan Expo. So, Chris, we'll start with you. What did you think of the lack of D&D there?
I mean, honestly, I was kind of shocked by it. I understand that Fan Expo is the offset of what was Comic-Con, right? So it's more of a pop culture, movies, animes, some video game stuff. It's not really geared towards the TTRPG, but with D&D being as big as it is, and growing constantly due to, Dimension 20 and Critical Role, stuff like that, I expected more of a presence. And for it to basically only be us and Quest Bros it blew me away. But there's definitely, I think, that's an opportunity that could be explored for sure.
Yeah, Cisco, what about you?
I was honestly just as surprised as Chris, and I'm actually kind of glad that we were basically the two major D&D, I guess, improvers and podcasters, people that I do out there. But like the only other D&D related stuff was dice and minis. There was a couple minis places, but it was mostly a side hustle for the minis. It was when they were in the dice shop. So
yeah, even the main mini shop was Misty Mountain Gaming, who is a dice shop.
And they didn't have no offense to them, but they have very many minis, many minis, so I feel like we were able to stick out like a sore thumb, which would benefit us in the long run. And I hope that we can continue to go to Fan Expo and stick out like a sore thumb and bring something to the table, literally next year. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, it was interesting. We were walking around and it was on the floor. Like on the floor, we were like the only ones that I knew of people talking to D&D about. We stopped multiple people who saw our shirts. We were wearing role-playing degenerate shirts, and they talked to us about D&D. Oddly enough, a lot of the people there that were talking to us about D&D were selling something had nothing to do with D&D. So we were talking to critters and people who never don't sell the D&D stuff or even are in that space, artists, things like that. So it was cool to connect with people like on a different plane almost. Like they're here for this thing. We're talking to them about D&D, and it felt like really organic, and that part was really cool. So for any content creators, micro content creators, and what I mean by that is anybody around the 10,000 to 50,000 followers on any social media, maybe check one of those out because you actually might be surprised at how much you connected with people. Cisco, were you surprised by the amount of connections we made this weekend?
Yeah, and it felt very natural. At first, we're all new to like connecting. It's different to connect over a social platform, sliding into them DMs, because guess what? The worst thing somebody says is no, that you completely don't know at all. You haven't even seen their face. But in person, it's crazy. Like it just starts, coming out, and it doesn't stop. Sorry. Apologize. But once it did, the nerd community is just crazy. How like genuine they feel and nice. Of course, there's like maybe one or two incidents up there of people stealing and stuff, but they were willing to listen to you and very genuine. And actually, there's majority of the people we talk with contacted us or joined in the Discord or followed us on all our socials, and we weren't even trying. We were just walking around having a good time.
Yeah, Chris, what did you think about the connections we made and how, like Cisco alluded to, how kind of easy it was to connect with people after the session? Because usually you try to connect with people, or as we know, you send DMs out there and it's just you never get a response, or you just never connect with people. But here, almost everybody we talk to on a personal level is either going to be on our podcast, wants to do something with us in our future, or joined our Discord. What was your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised across the board, to be honest with you. Like to start, like I don't do good in large crowds of people. It gives me like almost crippling anxiety to be in large groups of people like that. And I was surprised that despite the fact that it was shoulder to shoulder through a lot of the areas there, it never bothered me at all because everybody was just so polite and so nice and so willing to, have a conversation or share information or whatever. And then as far as, you said the people that we did connect with actually followed up on those connections and responded to our messages and our emails and reached out, joined the Discord, whatever. And I think that a lot of that has to do with that personal connection, like Tyler mentioned, is you're more inclined, I think, to do that, to have that follow up if you meet somebody face to face, because you're able to get a read on them as a person, right? It's not letters on a screen. You're actually having that conversation and building that connection. And we were able to do that with a ton of people, and it filled our podcast out all the way through August. We're looking into September dates now, after 1 weekend of meeting people, which is huge. It's awesome.
Yeah, and for those of you who are kind of wondering, or those of you listening, we've kind of talked about this offline. We want to do panels, and we want to do way more in-person stuff, because I think we all agree that interpersonal connection, when you actually meet people and talk to people, it's so easy to connect. And one of those connections we made, before we talk about the big Ahsoka thing, which was like my favorite part of the weekend, one of the connections we made was with Rest in Pieces. Who are the gamers? Who makes that again?
The Chew Games?
Yeah, Chew
Imagining
Games.
Yeah.
We met with a maker of Rest in Pieces, and for those of you who don't know, it's a role-playing game, but it's very rudimentary and very simple in that you play a character that is the flat mates or the roommates in a studio apartment, a fictitious studio apartment where you are a roommate to the Grim Reaper or Death. And we didn't play it right. It was fun, nonetheless, it was super fun. But we got to talk to the creator of the game, and we're in contact with him, and hopefully we can get more insight on the game. And we're going to be playing it. So, rest in pieces. Let's talk about that a little bit. Who bought the game originally when we were there, and what do you guys think about the game? We'll start with you, Chris.
Matt bought the game when we were there,
right.
and then I think somebody else turned around and bought it as well. I think it was Dakota. Yeah. So 2 people ended up buying the game. One was, so we could play it, and then the second person bought it because we had so much fun playing it. But yeah, I mean, for as simple as the game was, and as little prep time as it takes to play, it was an insane amount of fun for being the weird combination of like a card game / role-playing game / Jenga. Like you said, we didn't play it right at all. We had no idea what we were doing, and it was still a total blast. And I can only imagine it gets more fun if you know how to use the cards the right way.
Yeah. Cisco, what'd you think of it?
I had a blast. To be honest, I think we all just had fun because we were drinking Steve was drinking, but it's Budweiser Zero. And
oh, by the way, Budweiser Zero, if you ever watch this, I'm your boy. It's cool, refreshing, and it comes in a white can. I mean, if anybody needs to be a spokesman for Budweiser Zero, it should be me.
We were all drinking, and we were just literally just role-playing ridiculous characters. And that's just kind of what it made it fun, and we played a little bit of the rules, but I think we made the game last 3 times longer than it's supposed to.
Yeah, we definitely did. And for those of you listening, to better explain this, you have cards that you get and a Jenga board, pretty much just Jenga blocks. And your fate is decided by selfish and unselfish acts where you pull those blocks, and those blocks become your buying power to do certain things to your neighbors in the game. We didn't do that. We basically just played D&D and role-played and arbitrarily took blocks out and didn't know what to do with them. But nonetheless, it was super fun. And when we learn how to play the game a little better, I think it'll be pretty cool. So let's talk about the Ahsoka incident. If you guys don't mind, because it was my favorite portion of the weekend. So Ahsoka Tano is a character in Star Wars Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels. They're both animated series on Disney+. She also makes an appearance on The Mandalorian, and as fans know, she's going to have her own series, I think dubbed Ahsoka, and it's basically, for lack of a better term, it looks like Rebels Season 5, so, which is like my favorite show, so I'm really excited about it. But basically, Ashley Eckstein, who is the voice actor for Ahsoka Tano, was there with the voice actor for Anakin, which I forget his name off the top of my head, but they were both there in a dual panel. And I got the opportunity to go, ask a question at the panel. So for those of you who've seen our TikTok recently, we have a couple videos coming out, and one of them is me talking to Ahsoka. There's more to come. Super good experience. What did you guys think of the panel, and what did you guys think of like the curricular activities during the Fan Expo? Well, I'll start with you, Cisco.
I want to say the improv D&D was probably my favorite. Close second was Ahsoka, not because I'm a Star Wars fan, and I haven't watched the full series, and I'm sure it's great. By the way, Steve talks about it. But to catch Steve's face while he was talking to Ashley Eckstein was priceless. And I'm happy that me and Chris, mostly Chris, brought it up, and I was like, I'll just execute and get that video for him, and that's a moment Steve won't forget for the rest of his life. And doing improv D&D was really cool because at first it felt very monotone, mellow. It seems like people weren't going to get too into improv D&D, but I was the first person they called on, and I brought the boulder. as my entry character to see if I can get on stage, which proceeded to get everybody else minus 2 people to do voices and like get really into it. And I'm glad I could set that tempo, even though I didn't get a play, but I set the tempo for the whole room and brought the best out of everybody. And it definitely showed when everybody was on stage. It was amazing.
Yeah, Chris, what did you think of the D&D improv? Because we'll roll into that.
I mean, that was so cool. Huge shout out and huge props to the guys at Quest Bros that put that on. There was some confusion between a lot of us about what to expect going into that improv D&D panel, because there was like no information given from Fan Expo as to what it would be. So I actually used Reddit to get a little bit of information on it, so I kind of knew what to expect, but it even still wasn't what I was expecting. The way that they gave a question and they had 3 people from the crowd answer the question, and then had the crowd choose which of those 3 people would play that party member and then, that villain. And then it was as simple as giving a scenario and then having them roll a d20. Old school, just role-playing, straight role-play. It was super fun. I had a blast. The first day, getting to see Claire, she had never played D&D before. And she got to get up there on improv D&D at Fan Expo in front of a room of 50 to 100 people and have that be her first D&D experience is so cool to me, and I will personally never forget that, because that's one more person that is going to be hooked on D&D for the rest of their life because of that one awesome experience in a room full of awesome people.
Yeah, and for those of you to kind of elaborate more on the situation, there was I don't know how old she is, but there was a young woman who had a level of nervosity when she did an audition period, because there's an audition period where 3 people get up and they audition for certain parts in the game, and she auditioned for the healer, and she had a level of nervosity when she did it, but she pulled through and ended up being pretty funny for the audition and got on there. And the first couple of questions, she was so distracted by being up on stage that she just couldn't quite say anything, which is already nerve-wracking for somebody. But not only did she push through and start saying stuff, she ended up being a sleeper and being hilarious. I mean, really, really funny. And she kind of took a spin of the healer had a quasi-medical degree that maybe might not hold up in the court of law, but she had a good lawyer. So
I have a good lawyer.
Yeah, so it ended up being a really, really hilarious bit that she did improv. And then at the end of it, she asked if she could say, a word, and they gave her some time to say something, and she said this was her first time ever playing D&D, and she had a really good time, which we were all floored. We looked at each other like, are you kidding me? Not only is this her first time, but she got on stage, she was kind of eating, plates of shit the first 2 little sessions, and then she ends up killing it, really killing it, and it was one of those moments you're like, man, this was something special to see. And the reason it was so special is because Quest Bros put this on, and it's just I just really loved it because it's D&D at its fundamental level. Whenever you want to do something, you have to roll for it, and there's this level, this you get this feeling of well, what's going to happen? And 1s and 20s have never been funnier, especially in the order that they came. So
absolutely.
I thought it was amazing. I thought we saw every range of emotion. A confident person with a German accent. Claire's story where she overcomes everything, gets up there and kills it. And then you had a little kid who just wanted to do everything. He dies and comes back to life simply because he says it and rolls a natural 20.
That's so good. So good.
Yeah,
and I think it's also a great example. If there's anybody out there listening now that has never played D&D, has thought about it and just never pulled the trigger because they didn't know what to expect, or they didn't have a group play, or maybe they're a little bit nervous and shy about it. Just do it. Pull the trigger, get in there, play some D&D, because you will not regret it. I've not met one person ever who has tried D&D for the first time and not immediately fallen in love with it.
Yeah, it's a really special game. I mean, that's why we have this podcast. We talk to everybody on the podcast about what makes it so special. And I was actually surprised by some people we met there. They were afraid to do. We've met people who've been playing for years, and they're afraid to do a Discord game because it's a new group. For those of you out there, get on our Discord, Role Playing Degenerates. Get on the Ages of Vinor. Get on one of these Discords who are holding these games. Just play. It's a really good community out there. I think everyone should just play. Cisco, you were going to say something.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Make sure you jump in Discord if you've never played before. I haven't been to a Discord that is not welcoming in the D&D community. And if you find that Discord, you let me know. I'll go jump in there and take care of it for you. No big deal. No big deal.
Barbarian style.
Barbarian style. And then, but you know what? Fuck. And fuck that. If you don't feel comfortable with that and you've met us and you like us, come to our Discord. We'll walk you through it. It's no big deal. I can run a game. I ran a game over Fan Expo, and it was basically all improv. Everything I written and very little that I written never really happened. So, but Steve will probably. Oh, Steve's busy, but he might slide in a one shot here and there. But Chris loves running games. And we have other people that want to run games. D&D Nerd Girl Cherish was talking about it today. And it's a very welcoming community. And if you want to take baby steps, there's other ways of doing it. We can talk about it. It's no big deal.
Well, and we've got a ton of new players in our Discord, too.
Yeah. And very welcoming Discord. We kick out anybody that's a problem. And we've only had one problem. And we didn't even have to kick him out. Left him on his own.
Yeah. So for those of you out there who want to play online, there's free games everywhere. Just contact us if you want to ask about it. Moving forward, though, let's talk about Wizards of the Coast had a random weird announcement. And it was basically Wizards of the Coast met for lunch. The writers and the owners of what's coming next in D&D. They met for lunch to talk about the 6th edition and when it will happen. It's not going to happen anytime soon since they're literally just now discussing it. There's been murmurs of it, and people thought, like, oh, it's 2024. It's super far away from 2024 if they're just talking about it now over a lunch. So let's talk about 6th edition. I'm a huge fan of 5e. Personally, I think they did so many good things with it after talking to a bunch of people. But what are some things in 6e that we could expect or maybe need to surface? Chris, what do you think about 6e and what that means for the future?
Man, honestly, that's like a really tough talking point for me because, like you said, I think 5e they hit the nail on the head. You know, it's the perfect blend of being easy to learn for people who've never played before, but still having those layers of complexity that you can get into for more experienced players. I don't think they need to do much to it. You know, can you really improve something? It goes back to the old adage, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah.
So my biggest concern is, what are they going to end up doing from 5e to 6e? It's actually going to maybe break the game. The only thing I could think of is like maybe change around some of the proficiencies and ability checks a little bit. Because I know that's kind of a gray area for a lot of DMs is what checks do you use, what checks do you not use, is it strength, is it dex, and then there's the huge argument of rules as written versus rules as interpreted. You know, all of that is kind of convoluted, but again, if they delve too much into that and make it any more strict where it's absolutely rules as written, then a lot of the stuff that makes D&D fun kind of goes away. So in my opinion, the best thing that they could do is leave it alone, you know? Leave it as it is, maybe overhaul a couple of things, small things, but the game's damn near perfect in my opinion.
Yeah, I think me and you share a lot of the same feelings. But the promising thing is, like, usually an edition lasts about 10 years. We're going to be hitting 10 years in what, 2 years now, a year and a half, and they're just talking about the 6th edition, which means it's years, like 4 years away from even if they started today, it'd take forever, obviously. So I think they're probably thinking the same thing. They'll probably come out with like expound upon rules package, which has other things in it to sell. I mean, they're selling things left and right. I mean, they got good content. Spelljammer, Mordecai's Monster Manual that came out with all the playable races. I think that's really cool. Cisco, what do you think about 6E? What can they do better, or will they be a 6E? Because we might see a 4th edition. If they try to go too far one way or the other, we might see a 4th edition problem, and everyone just opens the book and then closes the book and then never talks about it again.
So there is a couple things I'd like to see. I love 5e the way it is, but dabbling into creating a character in Pathfinder. This is what I like about the old system, is that the customizability, the being able to reach and get more feats and ability scores, and it feels more customizable as a character. Like you can really really get into your character a little bit more, but that's not as big of an issue as I think as like the checks things. I think there should be maybe different strength checks, because there's only one strength check right now, and that's athletics, and that's the only strength check you see. There's other ways of doing it. I think you can break down athletics into something else. But that's up to them. I'm sure they got all the money and they got more brains than 3 or 2.5, including me, to make this game better. But you can't get much better than it is. It is what it is. I think they should just expand off what they have now and just continue to span forever off like they did on Pathfinder, basically. Just keep on expanding. Just don't stop.
Yeah, I mean, I think looking at it from a business standpoint, it's probably less that they feel that there's a need to overhaul the system and more a need that they want to generate new sales, right? Because at a certain point, sales for something like D&D are going to taper off. And they saw a surge when Critical Role hit big a couple years ago, where a bunch of new people came in and bought books, and then they lost a bunch of sales because of D&D Beyond, and which just a few months ago they went out and they acquired D&D Beyond. So I think that they're looking at it from a financial standpoint. Now that they've acquired D&D Beyond, what can they do to generate new sales for books, right? And the easiest thing, well, maybe not the easiest thing, but the most effective way to push that, to push sales of players' handbooks, dungeon masters' guides, monster manuals, is a new edition. You know, it forces people to need new everything.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with that from that standpoint. Yeah, I mean, honestly, for those of us who are playing 5e, there's a lot out there in 5e. I think it's the most expansive book series as far as rules and stuff you can get out there. Pathfinder has like 2 books total. 3.5, you got a couple editions of things come out, but like 5e, I mean, you could probably count like 12 source materials that will legitimately help you. You're looking at Fizbins, you're looking at Forgotten Realms, you're looking at so much stuff. So for those of you who always want to stick to 5e, I think there's actually enough material out there. You could live in 5e till we retire, honestly. So it's good in that case, because I like all the content out there in case someone wants to be like, I'm gonna play 5e 20 years from now. There's enough scrolls out there if you keep the books. You could 100% play 5e for the rest of your life. So for those of us who want to keep playing 5e, it doesn't matter. But it is interesting. They did have a luncheon yesterday or the day before. They did talk about 6th edition. And we'll see what happens with it. Who knows? But if we're playing 5e when 6th edition comes out, we're playing 5e. Free game still. So moving on to... I wanted to surprise you guys with a new idea live that I thought of right before the podcast.
All right.
So we talk about everything together for everyone who doesn't know. Anytime we have an idea, we text each other or whatever. But this one we haven't talked about. So let's talk about potentially doing a Vox Machina watch party every episode when it comes out.
I love it. I'm all in. I'm sold.
So how do we do it, though? Do we
Just
start from episode 1 and the Campaign 3 and catch up, or do we just do it live?
You're talking season 2 of Amazon, right?
Yeah, whenever that one comes out.
Oh, you're talking about the... Okay, never mind.
Yeah, I'm talking about the show. The show.
You said Vox Machina, my brain said Critical Role.
Yeah. So that was the impromptu idea I had 5 minutes before this. So for those of you who want to see our reactions, obviously we can't play the Vox Machina, but we can see our reactions to Vox Machina, which will be genuine and pretty cool, seeing how we're big fans. So that's my bright idea for today, is to do that.
Yeah, I love it. You'll probably see a lot of me doing the oh shit pointing at the screen, because as someone who did watch that whole campaign of Critical Role, like seeing the similarities between the show and the campaign is the most fun part for me, which evidence of that by the work I put in to make the TikTok videos, which are low quality but still fun to make either way. But they did a great job of sticking to the campaign with that animated series. It was awesome.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And I watched up to 100 episodes, right until Keyleth jumped off the cliff and should have died. That's where I stopped because...
Spoilers.
Okay, if you haven't seen it in 7 years, that's your fault. You won't even know what happens. But at that point, I was just like, I'm done.
Yeah, and that's alluded to, though, in the later campaigns as well. They make that joke, like,
all the time.
Oh, we're basically superheroes. We can just jump off this cliff, like...
Yeah.
The joke is fine now, but in the moment, I was pissed. I was like, you need to die. I didn't like Keyleth. Personally, I didn't like Keyleth as a character, so I really wanted to see her die. So
I am offended.
I mean, Grog and Scanlan all day, baby.
Oh, yeah, Grog was great. Scanlan's great. Percy's... Honestly, I don't think there was a single character that campaign that I didn't enjoy. It was all fantastic. It's such a good campaign.
Can't wait to see what happens next with it. There is some more exciting news that we do know. Everyone here knows. And I kind of wanted to bring it to light, and that is C4 Labs has almost become a sponsor. I don't know if you want to call it that. But for those of you who are wondering, I have been a huge fan of Chris's dice tray. I saw it first when Chris brought it, I think to one of our games. I just kind of took a glance at it. I was like, oh, that's a really nice dice tray. And then I saw it again when another player had taken it to my table, and I got to looking at it more, and he left it at my house for a couple weeks, and I kept rolling dice on it, and I just loved it. Well, then I had a new group of players play, and this is where it really caught me, this dice tray. It's labeled, it's got the labels for every sided dice you have on the side in numerical order. So D4 is on top, and then ascending to a D20 on the bottom. They even have the percentage die if you want to roll a D100, 2 D10s, which I love because I had new players, and I didn't have to say, they would ask me, like, what's a D12 or what's a D10? One of my players had it, brand new, and he could just pick it up from that area, roll it, and then put it right back in. So I just gave a shout out to C4 Labs, and I said, hey, I'm going to do a review on this because I genuinely think this is the best one out there because it solves such an easy problem, and it looks amazing. It's just clean. It looks good. So for those of you who don't know, C4 Labs has a really good dice tray with numerical die on one side, and it looks really good. And they just dropped a leather back and a melting ice cream D20 backing for it as well. Looks really good. So you can use promo code RPD15 right now to get 15% off on those. So if you guys are watching, use that promo code. Like I said, we're not really sponsored by them. We just genuinely think it's the best dice tray out there.
I love their products, man. They've got so much more cool stuff than just the dice tray, too. Like you said, I've got the tray that's got the acrylic and the wood and the felt, and it's kind of minimalist. It's super nice to roll on. It's easy to travel around with. But then I've also got a couple of their coasters that have the D20 with the acrylic, and then the coaster has a little spot where you can put extra D6s in it or whatever. They've got dice drawers.
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got rolling towers. They've got anything that you need for D&D. Look at C4 Labs. They've got it all.
And it's not just like separate rolling towers. They have rolling towers attachments for the C4
Yeah,
Labs.
attached to it, yeah.
Yeah, attached to it.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's super cool. And they're not expensive. They're a good price, too. It's great.
Yeah, they were very reasonable.
Oh, for sure, because there's some of them out there who are just like a box with nothing to hold your dice. It just sits in the tray, and they're the same price. And it's like, come on, dude.
Yeah, the Elderwood Academy stuff, like, the quality is beautiful, but like for what it is, I'm not paying $120 for a wooden box with 4 magnets in it. I'm sorry. If I wanted that, like, I could make that myself.
Yeah.
Like, not to toot my own horn, but I've got the experience and the skill to do that. But the work with the acrylic and the felts and the laser engraving and everything that they do at C4, I can't do that, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And it has like a nice, lovely glowing effect. It's
Yeah.
You can't beat it.
Yeah, the way the light hits the acrylic, it makes it look like it's turned on sometimes.
Yeah.
It's really cool. C4, you guys did a great job. So I want to give them a shout out. And let's move on to Stranger Things. This new season of Stranger Things, I talk about it on my podcast sometimes, but I like to dig down deep into it. A big fan theory out there is it's going to end. It's going to end with the creators. The end, whatever the end is. Whoever 11 dies, Vecna dies, whatever happens, they're gonna have an ending, and it's gonna zoom out. And when it zooms out far enough, they're going to end up the screen going black, and then it's going to end up being you hear an explanation of the ending in real time, and it zooms out to the D&D table of the Duffer Brothers when they're kids.
That would be so cool.
It's like the theory everyone keeps talking about. It's got brought up in a couple interviews. If you are going to make D&D in a TV show, this is it. I mean, I know they talk about it, which is cliche kind of, but if you look at it, it's legitimately a 4-part campaign series with every arc a different year. You have the Mind Flayer arc, you have the Demogorgon arc, you have the Vecna arc. What do you guys think about Stranger Things? And obviously Stranger Things and Critical Role are probably like the ones, the boosters of D&D recently. So what do you guys think about that? We'll start with you, Cisco.
Let's not talk about the latest season because I'm only a couple episodes in. So shut your whore mouths.
That's a sin.
I've done my research. I've seen a couple clips, the good clips. So bear with me. I'm a busy fella. But yes, Critical Role, Stranger Things, definitely the best thing that's probably happened to D&D in the last 10, 15 years. Probably since 4E, or since the release of 5E. And then I don't know how to explain it when I'm watching Stranger Things. Is that I just feel like I just need to play D&D while I'm watching it. I that's how I feel when I'm playing D&D. Is that I'm living it. So especially with good story writers like Steve and Chris here, you can't beat it when you're playing a game like that. And Stranger Things definitely puts it in perspective as how it would feel to play D&D. Someone that's never ever played. If you can get the hints. Some people can't.
Yeah. Chris, what'd you think about Stranger Things and what it's mapped for D&D?
Well, I think what Critical Role did for D&D for the older crowd, so to speak, I think Stranger Things is drawing in a much younger crowd into D&D, people who've never played D&D before. My 11-year-old kid, Stranger Things is what triggered him to ask me about D&D, because the show is just so good, and it just continues to get better, and you can watch the entire series and not know that it's a D&D show. If you've never watched Stranger Things, go watch it. It doesn't matter if you like D&D or not. You won't know that it's a D&D show while you're watching it. But if you're a D&D fan already, you're going to pick up on that Mind Flayer. You're going to pick up on that Vecna, the Lich. you're going to pick up on that stuff, and you'll get those little nuance Easter eggs, if you will, throughout the series that are dropped by all the characters, and it's super cool. But going into this most recent season without giving any spoilers away, I think that the best thing that they might have done so far in that entire series was the introduction of Eddie Munson, because I think that is a more multi-layered approach than what many people see it as. A lot of people see it as Eddie Munson, we love him, the DM, awesome, the mentor to these kids, cool, but like Eddie Munson is really like, he's the kid that was singled out as the freak in high school because he played D&D. He was singled out as the Satanist in the 80s during, the Satanic Panic because he played D&D. Like, they're showing that a lot of people throughout their lives have played and loved and lived this game and have been ridiculed and targeted and misrepresented because of it, because people don't understand what the game is. And they showed that despite all that, like, Eddie is an amazing person. Any one of us would be best friends with Eddie Munson. Like, he is a god among a lot of the fan base, right? And I think a lot of people it's cool that so many people have become such big fans of the show because of Eddie Munson, and so many people identify with Eddie Munson, but I think a lot of people might be overlooking some of the depth of that character that the Duffer Brothers really put into it.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, Chris is speaking about the Satanic Panic, the early days of D&D. And I've talked to a guy from How to Be a Great GM, and he kind of lived those days, and it was very much like hard for them. Whereas for us, it's like cool to play D&D, or a lot cooler at least. So yeah, that's a very good distinction. I didn't think about it until you said it, but that's exactly what his character is. And he ends up, against all odds, being the hero in all of it. At the end, anyways, with the coolest rock solo like ever made. But
oh my god, that's so good.
Yeah, that's a good point you're making. I'm gonna have to mull that over for a few days because I only looked at him as being Eddie Munson, the DM. So I'll have to go rewatch that now because that is an interesting distinction. Yeah. So looking at the future of D&D and Critical Role and everything, what do you think is coming in the near future other than 6th edition? Is Critical Role ever going to retire? Let's go with that. Do you guys think that Critical Role is ever going to retire? If so, are they just going to retire the cast and keep a new cast? Or what do you think? Chris, we'll start with you.
I think, yeah. I think eventually they call it. Because for all of the success that they've created, they've also created their own replacements in doing that, right?
Yeah.
What Critical Role has done is basically mainstreamed, watching people play their campaigns. Like, that wasn't a thing, really, before Critical Role made it big.
Yeah.
And now, between Critical Role and Dimension 20 and, any number of streams on Twitch, including ours, including Fable, like, there's just so many out there that eventually Critical Role is going to decide that they're going to move on to the next bigger thing. Maybe they decide to produce more. Maybe they decide it's time to just call it quits and retire. Maybe they decide to focus solely on the writing and creating aspect of it because they do such a good job with creating content for D&D that's homebrew. It's amazing. But not one single part of me believes that they will continue on past another 5 years or so. Especially like Travis and Laura have a kid now. There's going to reach a point where it's just not plausible for them. And, you'll see those staple members of Critical Role rotate out. And, at what point does Matt Mercer get burned out? At what point does Marisha Ray get burned out? You know, like, and you have the introduction of guys like Robbie Damon, like, and you guys know I'm a huge Robbie Damon fanboy. From day one of this season of Critical Role, I fell in love with Robbie, as his character and him as a person. But I just don't think that it's there to continue on for much longer than, again, maybe another 4 or 5 years. There's just it's going to become a saturated market.
Yeah, well, and like you alluded to it, they are setting themselves up. I mean, Robbie's like going to fan expos now. He also has the best double nat 20 I've seen in my life. Have you seen the video of him double nat 20?
Yep.
That would never happen. Holy shit! It's like the coolest nat 20 ever. Yeah, and they did mention they wanted to do at least 2 spin-offs per 2 spin-off series on Amazon per campaign. So if they do that, I mean, there's no way they're gonna have to like get a new crew in there or something, because they all said, I think Sam was the biggest proponent of it, but they all said they wanted to go full-time into the voice acting and like basically their real jobs, but for a massive thing, which is Vox Machina. And Vox Machina, because Vox Machina is probably going to be 4 seasons if you look at their arcs, and they said 2 spin-offs off of it, and then they wanted to do 2 spin-offs off of, I imagine, 3 seasons, maybe 4 seasons of campaign 2. So yeah, they're going to be so busy the next 5 years. I totally agree. I think they're going to just supplement those characters. I think someone like Liam might be like the one who stays in for the longest or something, someone who just is too in love with it, and he might be the person playing forever. But I think everybody else will eventually go in and out of it, and there'll be NPCs or something at some time. But
Or is Taliesin, is he married or have family or anything?
I'm not sure what he's doing. He could play for a long time too.
I'd say Taliesin might be the other one. But like you say, yeah, Matt Mercer, he's gotta get burned out eventually. Dude, that guy puts in a shit ton of work and writing and stuff like that, and he probably works outside of Critical Role a lot, writing with Wizard and things like that. I think his scenes are getting easier for him just because he has collected so much probably from Dwarven Forge, which has helped them out a lot.
Yeah.
So that probably helps him out a lot, but he still has to think about those things. Like, oh, I gotta map this out, and you know, he has to make like 6 scenes. You know, a game just because he leaves it so open-ended for them to play. So it's. I think Chris has probably got it right. About another 5 years, probably maybe after this campaign, everybody's gonna be like, it's time to go live their lives. They created a beautiful thing. Do I think he'll continue on? I don't think he'll go away. But
oh, we lost Cisco, everybody. They're coming back.
I'm back.
Yep, you came on and Cisco got kicked off. Well, while we're waiting for Cisco, everyone, go to c4labs.com and use promo code RPD15 for your brand new dice tray. All right, he's back.
that
That was perfect. That was beautiful.
That was actually a good radio voice.
Not as good as Dandy's. Dandy's got the best impromptu radio voice in the biz.
Andy's got just a gorgeous voice altogether. I'm jealous of that man's voice.
Andy,
Yeah. So we played 2-shot at the Fan Expo, and Mr. Dandy DM was invited, and he came the second night, and we were playing, and it was kind of impromptu. We were all kind of doing funny voices. I basically did LSP from Adventure Time, and we were all doing funny voices. Well, someone had mentioned like, "Hey, why don't you just do a Boston accent?" Because he said like, "Yeah." He's like a weird something, and then he pulled off this amazing Boston accent for the rest of the night. So shout out to Dandy DM, really talented player. Love playing with him.
Harrietta, you dumb bitch.
Yeah, so you guys got to go watch that. It's incoherent to say the least, but it was a great time.
Yeah, the first day it was super fun, and then we picked up pretty quickly in the first day. The second day, you gotta get through that first hour, but as soon as you get through that first hour, oh my goodness, it just goes crazy afterwards. There's a lot of times I'm just like, Yeah, just do your thing. Whatever. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I mean, there are periods of, because I was rewatching it, I'm cutting it up to make some audio clips out of it. Because like I said, I want to take the audio clipped up and do some animation over it to make like a YouTube video or something.
Yeah.
But there are sections of that video, if you go back and rewatch it, where it's just straight laughter for like a solid 2 to 3 minutes, where it's just us laughing.
Yeah.
Nobody can speak. We're laughing so hard.
And it's not just like normal laughter. It's high pitch laughter.
Like to the point that, laughter is contagious, right? Infectious.
Yeah.
That, like, I was just sitting in my recliner rewatching this video, not even watching it, listening to it, right?
Yeah.
And I was just cracking up because it was so entertaining, man.
Yeah.
At one point, I was just like, I have tears. I have so many tears. It's like all the way down to my chin. I was laughing so hard, my tears were coming down my chin.
It was a fun game for sure. So check it out, and then waiting for Chris to make those edits. Let's. I'll ask you guys the same question I ask all the guests, and that is the last question. Usually is, where do you see yourself with D&D in the next 5, 10, 15 years? Cisco, we'll start with you. Where do you see yourself with D&D in the future?
Fuck, right here with you fuckers. Honestly, it's like doing this with you guys in 5 years. 5 years is the goal. Full time doing this. I think that's doable. Completely. I think we have some. I think we had a huge learning experience in the Fan Expo weekend, and now that we've met more people, we're just going to continue to meet more people, and I think the RPD group might grow in the near future with maybe more members that might see the potential of this. There's a couple individuals I don't want to specifically say, but that I would love to see. I want to see a recurring game weekly. It's going to have to be online, but eventually I want it to be in person. There's a couple individuals, especially one person, that I would love to see be a part of RPD full time. Very professional and a very good player / DM. And then doing this full time, man, I could be working 80 hours, 90, 120 hours a week. Let's just say I don't sleep, screw it. And I would still love doing this for myself and for everybody else around me, because I know what D&D brings to the table, and that's a community that is just love and just creativity, and brings everybody together between artists and role players and cosplayers and all that. It just brings everybody together, and why wouldn't you want to be a part of something like that? It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah, well said. Chris, what about you in the future, a couple of years? Where do you see yourself or us in D&D?
Man, that's it's kind of a loaded question, isn't it? Like, I don't see role-playing degenerates going anywhere, right? When this thing first started, it was kind of on a whim, and it was kind of slow at first, and then me and Tyler got to talking about doing the TikTok, and then we got to talking about doing the Discord, and it felt like I was overwhelmed at first, like between building a Discord and moderating a Discord and trying to get people into it and maintain activity throughout the day, and then also come up with ideas for TikTok content and edit those videos and remember to post them, and it was a lot. Now, on top of playing D&D in games and trying to build one-shots so that other people could play, I was extremely overwhelmed. There was a point where I was just so gassed that I was ready to just step away for a while. And then Tyler, it was like you could tell I was getting burned out, and you're like, I'm going to help with the TikTok. And you started helping make TikToks, and you started being way more active in the Discord and bringing people in, and it was like, all right, every other day now I can focus on it. And then Steve, you got really invested in it, and it was like, man, okay, so me and Steve, we're on the same wavelength on the business side of things. Like every time you talk business side, it's like, yep, you're reading my thoughts.
Yeah, for sure.
And Tyler on the creative side, right? Like it's like you're right here all the time. Like you're reading my thoughts, and it's so nice because the last couple of weeks, I thought I was gonna have that overwhelmed feeling, but I don't, you know. And like I've started doing more of the behind the scenes stuff recently, and less of the, you know, putting my face in TikTok videos. Tyler, you've been doing a lot more of the videos. Steve's been starting to do the videos. Man, it's been so much nicer. So, and as far as 5 years from now, not just still being here doing this, but like my long-term goal is everybody wants to monetize, you know, like that's obviously a goal. But for me, it's I want to set up and host free games at the local junior high or the local high school once a month or every other week, where, you know, parents need childcare, send them to D&D club, you know, kids who need a club or an outlet but aren't athletic or have no desire to play sports, you know, or don't feel like they fit in, they can come and explore that creative outlet that is D&D. I discovered it personally way too late in my life. I wish I had D&D when I was younger. So I want to be able to provide that to the next generation, you know. That's my long-term goal. That's what I see in 5-10 years is not necessarily a charity, but, you know, RPD hosted. I've already got a name for it in my head, but I'm not going to say it out loud yet.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, an RPD hosted games for youth kids locally.
Yeah, I mean that's I mean we kind of all three of us. Well, first of all, before I get into that, like it's weird how we have this weird trifecta. And for those of you who like want to know what content creation is all about, it's all about like failures and trying to figure out how to work around that. And you can do it with multiple people. Like I was not involved in TikTok at all. I actually just don't like putting myself out there, but I've been more focused on creating good content, and that headspace makes me more comfortable doing it. So for those of you who want to create, or those of you who are looking to like break past that like 10,000 follower plus barrier, don't be afraid to fail and learn from it, because I think that's the biggest thing we learn is we have like 1,000 ideas and they all feel like 100% full throttle, but a week later things change and it's not 100%. You learn day by day or experience by experience. So for those of you out there who want to get into content creation, not even in D&D, I think we would all agree, like, be prepared to eat giant plates of shit, and successes come every once in a while if you stay focused and you're on track. Which has been my experience with it. As long as we keep moving in some sort of the right direction, you keep going, it ends up working out. But that's awesome, Chris, as far as giving back, because I think that's what we all want to do at the end of this, is give back to the community. That it's awesome for us. And speaking of giving back, we're going to be doing a charity event in late September with StoryForge. That's really all I'm going to say right now, because nothing's 100% final. But we're going to be doing a charity event with StoryForge and some other content creators. So be looking out for that in the future, sometime late September. So if anybody wants to donate to a good charity, which looks like it's going to be MVG, Military and Veterans Gaming, reach out to us and we'll get you set up for when the stream starts so we can do that. Other than that, in closing, is there anything you guys want to say before we sign off here? Cisco, we'll start with you.
I want to thank the community. You guys are all wonderful people. Couldn't ask for anything better. And I'd like to apologize. I haven't been live much lately on TikTok. I got burnt out like Chris did. It's very exhausting to be talking to yourself when it gets dry. And it mentally put a toll on me. And and to stay motivated when you have a mental toll on yourself, it's difficult. So I'm slowly building myself back up. Expect to see live soon. I have plenty of minis to paint. And I have some scenery to make, diorama stuff. for Steve's home games and our home games. Hopefully Chris will be joining us here soon, and there's actually some really good potential to be having an in-home stream game. So look out for stuff like that. So off to Chris. Thanks again.
Yeah, again, tip of the hat to the community. Like, I never viewed myself as a content creator. You know, I tried the Twitch stream thing on my own for a while and just never really broke through. But I think it was because I wasn't in the place that, like, I felt like I belonged, and D&D is that. It fosters my love of writing with my love of fantasy, with my love of playing games. You know, it's everything all at once. It's fantastic. And if you guys have any interest in being on the podcast or jumping on our Discord and playing in a one-shot or a full campaign or whatever, reach out, message us on Twitch, message us on TikTok, email us, you know, whatever you got to do. But, you know, we're not exclusive at all. Like, everybody is welcome. We want more people to get in there. We're going to be running more games again. I had a dry spell with writing one-shots, but I just turned it back on here after Fan Expo, where the ideas are kind of flowing again. So I'm going to set up an all newbies, an all rookies one-shot for people who've never played before in the Discord to get that going. But yeah, just we'd love to see more people involved. We'd love to do more collaboration with other content creators, and we'd love to have more and fresh perspectives for the podcast. So please don't be afraid to reach out.
Yeah, absolutely, well said. And for my 5-year goal for this RPD, we're still going to be going strong, obviously. But for everyone who's watching, I just want to say I appreciate it too. And we'll be looking to do maybe these RPD only podcasts, probably either when someone's not scheduled for a Thursday, or maybe we'll schedule one like once a month or something outside we can all talk, so you guys can see us all, because it is kind of weird how we talk to some people and they're like, wait, aren't you RPD? Like, well, no, there's 3 of us. But yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for everyone, and so for everyone who wants to know more about us, just connect with us. Otherwise, keep rolling dice, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.